Most passengers didn't even notice the single dad in seat 12F. They only saw a tired man with a worn vest, a messy-haired little boy clutching a toy jet, and a woman beside them looking uncomfortable. But what no one knew, not the annoyed passengers, not the flight attendants, and certainly not the woman who kept rolling her eyes, was that this quiet father carried a call sign known by the bravest fighter pilots in the sky, and by the end of that flight, everyone would rise to their feet for him, and learn what true kindness really looks like. Before we begin this emotional story, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment to support our channel, Kindness Action, where we share real stories that inspire compassion, courage, and humanity. Your support helps us bring more kindness into the world. The early morning flight from Denver to Virginia was almost full, and people were already impatient. The man in seat 12F, Ethan, helped his little boy, Caleb, climb into the seat before settling down himself. Ethan looked exhausted, his arms covered in small scratches and stains from a long week of work. Caleb hugged his toy jet close, the wings chipped and covered in tiny stickers. The woman in seat 12E, dressed perfectly in a white blouse and beige skirt, glanced at them with a sigh. She crossed her arms and turned toward the window as if trying to separate herself from the situation. Ethan didn't blame her. He was used to that reaction. Being a single dad wasn't easy. But being one who worked 2 jobs and barely slept. Even harder, this trip wasn't a vacation, it was a final visit to Caleb's grandmother, who was in the hospital. Caleb tugged on Ethan's sleeve. "Daddy, do you think Grandma will like my jet?" Ethan smiled softly. "She'll love it, buddy." Around them, passengers whispered. "That kid better not cry the whole flight." "Oh great, a child right next to me. Look at his shirt, is that paint?" Ethan heard everything. He always heard everything. The plane took off, and for the first hour, Caleb behaved perfectly, quietly moving his toy jet through the air, pretending to soar above the clouds. But turbulence hit, and Caleb suddenly pressed himself against Ethan. Scared, his toy fell to the floor and slid under the woman's seat. She looked at it, frowned, and turned the other way. Ethan leaned down awkwardly to reach it, but his vest snagged on the tray table. Caleb whimpered, and Ethan's face burned with embarrassment. He whispered, "It's okay, buddy, Daddy's here finally." The woman sighed dramatically, reached down, picked up the jet, and shoved it into Ethan's hand. "Maybe control your kid," she muttered. Ethan didn't argue. He just whispered thank you. Hours passed, and the mood on the plane stayed heavy. Caleb eventually slept in his father's arms, his tiny hand gripping Ethan's shirt. As the plane began descending, the captain's voice came over the speaker. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to give a special welcome to the Air National Guard escort joining us on our landing approach today. 2 F-22 pilots will be guiding us in due to airspace training activity. Please enjoy the view." Passengers pressed against the windows, excited. Even the woman in 12E leaned closer to get a better look. 2 sleek jets appeared beside the plane, gliding gracefully, almost in slow motion. Caleb woke up, his sleepy eyes widening with awe. "Daddy, F-22s just like my toy." Ethan smiled and gave his son a gentle squeeze. "Pretty cool, huh?" Suddenly, a crackle came over the cabin speakers. It wasn't the captain this time, it was one of the fighter pilots. "Commercial Flight 482, is there a passenger on board?" "Call sign, Falcon." Ethan froze. A few passengers chuckled, thinking it was a joke, but then the pilot continued, his voice respectful, steady, almost emotional. "If call sign Falcon is on board, the 121st Fighter Wing sends our salute." Whispers spread instantly. "Call sign, is someone important on this plane? Who's Falcon?" The flight attendant walked down the aisle, looking around. Her eyes scanned row after row, then landed on Ethan. His face had gone pale. "Sir, is that you?" she asked quietly. Ethan swallowed hard, nodding once. "It's been a long time," he whispered. Passengers looked back and forth between him and the jets outside. Even the woman beside him slowly uncrossed her arms, surprise softening her expression. Then the pilot spoke again. "Falcon, this is Hawk. We owe you, man. You saved 3 of us during that wildfire evac. We never forgot." Caleb looked up at his dad with huge eyes. "Daddy, that's you." Ethan didn't brag. He never did. He simply nodded and put a hand on Caleb's shoulder. The pilot continued, "Permission to give a proper salute." The entire cabin gasped as both F-22 jets tilted their wings sharply, a maneuver that fighter pilots reserve only for the deepest respect. Ethan's eyes filled with tears. Passengers stared in disbelief. The once annoyed businessman in front of him pushed his seat upright. The teenagers across the aisle took off their headphones. Even the woman beside him whispered, I had no idea." Ethan shook his head gently. "It's okay. I don't talk about it. As the jet straightened out, guiding the plane toward landing, something changed inside the cabin. People looked at Ethan differently, not because he had served, not because he had a call sign known to heroes, but because they suddenly saw the quiet strength he carried every day. When the plane landed and passengers stood to leave, the woman in 12E touched Ethan's arm. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I judged you without knowing anything." Ethan offered a warm smile. "Kindness doesn't need explanations," he said. "But thank you." Caleb held his toy jet proudly as they walked off the plane, and every few steps, someone stopped to shake Ethan's hand or thank him. But the real moment that mattered was when Caleb looked up at him. "Daddy, I'm proud of you." Ethan squeezed his son's hand. "I'm proud of you too, buddy." For being brave sometimes, kindness isn't about grand gestures. It's about pausing long enough to understand the person in front of you, even the tired dad in seat 12F. Because everyone has a story, everyone carries battles you can't see, and sometimes the quietest people are the ones who've done the bravest things. If this story touched your heart, remember to spread kindness today. A smile, a gentle word, a moment of patience, these small acts can change someone's entire world. And that is the mission of Kindness Action.